What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with just a quick video and we're going to talk about Banshee, the Tower Gunsmith weapon rotation, and how it regularly changes inventory and weapon rolls throughout the week as a quick heads up. Because there are lots of opportunities to pick up actually very good weapon rolls from the Tower vendor, but he doesn't necessarily have them for long, meaning a lot of players miss out on some pretty solid weapons. So we'll talk about when these weapons and rolls change, some of the stuff that he can sell, and how to keep an eye on them. I'm sure some of you guys will already know this. For me personally, I knew that his roles were changing throughout the week, but I wasn't sure when it was actually happening, so it may be useful for some folks. As always, I hope you guys enjoy the video today, and if you do, a rating down below really does help us out on the channel. Otherwise though, let's get into it. And initially, a big shout out to Evan Genioso, who posted a Reddit thread about this. They've been paying attention and have picked up the times that Banshee's inventory changes. And as we see on and off at Banshee in the Tower, he sometimes has some pretty solid weapon rolls. Of course, the inventory of weapons that Gunsmith can actually sell is pretty large, so it can sometimes seem like he rarely sells anything good, but in actual fact, unless you're keeping your eyes on his inventory throughout the week or even daily at certain times, it's pretty easy to miss some of the better stuff that he sells. And that's why recently folks have missed out on things like the Battle Scar with kinetic tremors. Or other times he sells stuff with incandescent. He's had god rolls of the Marsilian sea grenade launcher, and a bunch of other weapons that a lot of folks haven't noticed. So given that he's been updated with season weapons from last year, his inventory and potential for some great weapons definitely has improved since Lightfall. And so in terms of how it works, Banshee sells 2 pages of weapons, and the thing to know is that the first page weapons are on a daily rotation, so the weapons themselves can change every day at the daily reset, which is 1 PM EST, and that's 6 PM BST in the UK. But in between those hours, the rolls on those weapons will actually change, and that happens at 8 PM EST, which is 1 AM in the UK. And so not only do the featured weapons change at daily reset, but their rolls actually change halfway through the 24-hour period that they're featured. In fact, it's not even halfway, it's just a handful of hours later. But importantly, he does sell 2 versions of the front page weapons every day. And the only way to know right now what these rolls are is to either check with him in the game, or you can use API tools like Destiny Item Manager to inspect his inventory. And so it does require some input, but the good thing is that if you know he has a weapon or weapons that you like or want a good roll on, you can at least check in a few hours later to see what rolls he has. And so again, bear in mind the front page weapons change at daily reset, and their rolls will change again just 7 hours later. Not sure if this is entirely intended, or whether the specific timings were intended, but for the moment, this is how it works. And then as we move over to his second page, these are weekly featured weapons. And these weapons will initially change on Tuesday's weekly reset, which again is at 1 PM EST. And the rolls on those will stay the same for a little longer, but they will re-roll on Wednesday at 8 PM EST. And so the weekly weapons get 2 rolls per week. The first at Tuesday's weekly reset, and then just over a day later at 8 PM EST on the Wednesday, the perks on them will change. So again, if there's a weapon that you really want a good roll on, the positive is that there is more than 1 chance per week when he has it featured. And looking at the chart below, I've listed the times that the front page weapons and the weekly featured weapons actually change. And obviously that middle column there is when the weapons themselves refresh. Then the last column is when the perks refresh. And so I think it's something totally worth paying attention to. Again, if you've got really good rolls on all of these weapons already, it won't necessarily be super useful, but there are lots of folks who missed out on some of those weapons last year, or are looking for good rolls on the weapons that are featured from this season, things like the Marsilian sea grenade launcher. And so hopefully it's a useful shout for some folks. And I have seen some players discuss an element of kind of FOMO with this, because obviously it requires a lot of paying attention to what he has at a given time, but also people have different schedules, some folks are at work and things like that. So bear in mind, you can use things like GeForce Now, which is a game streaming service, and there is a free tier of that, which may be useful for some folks on mobile if they're at work on their break or something. You might be able to sign in and just use it to nab a weapon that Banshee has. And otherwise, you're going to rely on tools like Destiny Item Manager to keep an eye on his inventory at a given time. And as we can see on LightGG right here, the inventory bucket of potential weapons that he can sell is pretty significant. So initially there's the weapon section right here, and all of these that you can see are the weekly featured weapons. And then there is a separate pool right here of featured weapons that he can potentially sell. I would assume, since these are in the inventory, that he can potentially sell any of them. Although there are those outliers, the things that always seem to pop up, like the class swords or the Judgment of Kelgroth, which seems to have been in his inventory pretty much permanently since the start of the season. But obviously that's up to Bungie how all of this stuff works. For the purposes of this video though, I just thought it might be useful for some players to explain when these weapons are changing, the different timings. and that it is definitely worth looking out for some of the weapons that Banshee can sell, as again, as we've seen in the past few weeks, there is the potential that once or twice a week, he actually sells something that is pretty good. Some of these weapons also don't necessarily have other sources anymore, so there we go guys, hopefully the video has been useful today, and if it has, a rating down below really does help us out. Let us know any weapons that you've been keeping an eye on that Banshee can sell now, any great rolls that you're looking out for, or indeed, any really good weapons that you've managed to pick up off Banshee. Otherwise though, for today, that is what we have to speak about, so if you want to see more Destiny content guys, be sure to get subscribed and turn on notifications, hitting the bell icon down below, so that I can keep you posted with everything related to the game. Otherwise though, thank you as always for tuning in, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.